Hey, Jasen Rice here with LotParty, and again, the theme of the show is, if you ever worked at a dealership on the physical lot, you know what a LotParty is, getting everybody together to stir up that lot, maybe move things around or clean that lot up. Well, this LotParty show is all about what we could do on the virtual lot and or just better inventory management as a whole. And if you can catch our previous episodes, there's been 7 so far, and they've all been great. The first one's about new car, some best practices and strategies in today's market, the internet shopper, what you can do to increase new car exposure. Second show, interviewed a professional photographer and some tips on how to do better photos, and we give you some great examples there. The third show is we talked to a small dealer in Moberly, Missouri, and some of the benefits and struggle of being a small town dealer. Fourth show, we talked to a Highline dealer, Infinity Acura store, that actually does velocity and turns that inventory, has an average day in the 20s. The fifth show, we just went over myself, no interview, but we went over the flat price strategy, how to price a car at 20 grand instead of $19,995. Huge results when you do a strategy like that. The sixth show, I interviewed Dennis McGinn from Rapid Recon. It's a software system that helps dealers turn their inventory faster on the recon side of it. Not to promote Rapid Recon, but it was there about the strategies and the cost that it takes if you slow that process down. And then the seventh interview last week, interviewed the actual service director of the large dealer group that has a 4-day turnaround time and what it takes actually on the lot to get that done. So this show, though, today, we're going and interviewing Dan Oakes from Oakes Auto in Kansas City. He's in a very competitive market. Here's an independent lot. That matter of fact, they have probably a CarMax within a mile or two from their dealership. They have large dealer groups in their market. You'll hear about that in an interview. So I hope you enjoy the show and catch out the previous episodes earlier. And at the end, we'll also give you a best practice tip. Thanks. Hey, Jasen Rice here with LotParty. I want to introduce you to Dan Oakes. He's owner of Oakes Auto, independent lot in Merriam, Kansas. And which is what, 15 minutes out of the city?
Yeah, pretty much from just south of downtown Kansas City.
So what I want to do in this show, we've independent used car lots. There's a lot of them out there. It's a struggle. I know that it's tough not being a franchise dealer with trades and parts and service type of revenue. But first, when did you start in the car business? How long have you been around?
I started in about this time of the year, about February 2010 is when I started, so about 6 years ago.
6 years ago. And where did you come from before the car business?
Totally non-related to the car business. I was in energy trading, and actually had gone up to New York City and worked for an investment bank in 08, 09, right when the economy kind of unraveled, and landed back in Kansas City and was doing the same thing, but I kind of saw the economy, and I didn't think the area I was trading in was really going to bounce back, so I was looking for something kind of different, and always liked cars, and I grew up with a couple of my father's friends had used car lots, and just decided I kind of wanted to work for myself and do something in an area I had interest in, and just kind of dove in part-time on the side and started a one-man band.
So kind of got your wholesaler's license or something and bought cars, or dealer license, and just kind of
I just got my dealer license. I actually operated in an office I leased in the back of another guy's lot, and just started there, bought a few cars out of the auction, started listing them, and just kind of did all the pictures and pretty much everything myself to get them listed, write the descriptions, answer all the leads, deal with customers, try to get the sales. And I mean, just it was literally a hole-in-the-wall place.
So then,
and the perception was that too, when people showed up. So,
but hey, you obviously now you have how many employees?
We have, I think, 13 right now.
Nice. And then how many cars are in the lot?
We keep around 150 in inventory. Retail ready out there is usually 120 to 130.
And then what of that are you selling every month then?
If we don't sell at least 100, we're pretty disappointed. And for almost a year now, we've at least hit 100 per month. We dip in December. We did dip right under that into the 90s, but generally right over 100.
Right. And so one of the struggles we talked about in my last 2 episodes has been about recon and turnaround time. I interviewed Dennis McGinn about Rapid Recon, how fast turnaround time. talk to a service director on what they do to get the turnaround time good. And I would imagine that's a lot of your struggle here. I mean, why you got to have that cushion of what you're carrying versus lot
Right.
ready. What's those struggles as an independent?
Yeah, I mean, that at this point is one of our biggest struggles for sure. It's we source a lot of cars on the internet, so they're coming from outside the area.
Mm-hmm.
So we're relying on transport to get those in. Here recently, we had some that were involved up in the area, got hit with the weather and the storm. So our shipping was delayed almost 2 weeks on those before we can even touch them.
Yeah.
Due to our facility here, we don't have our own mechanic shop, so we outsource that as well.
Okay.
We do a little bit of our detailing here, but we have to outsource some of that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things are outsourced. We're relying on outside vendors, their time schedules, and we've grown to use a fair amount of them. But coordinating all of those things to work as efficiently as possible, and not having 90% of it done, but waiting on that last 10%, dragging another 5 days to just get that windshield or whatever put in. That's constantly a fight here, and that we're working on improving that every day.
Yeah, and if you could, you started from maybe 5-10 cars a month when you first started. I mean, how many were you selling?
Under 5. I mean, at first, and then we got to around 5 to 10.
Yeah, and then when did you get in this building here to be able to host 100 cars, 100 plus, 150 plus cars?
It was about a year, just a hair over a year in. It was about 5 years ago. So I've been down here since April 2011, so about 5 years.
So with the independent dealer not being a franchise, what would you say is the biggest struggle, other than what we're just talking about with service turnaround? Is there other things that make it tough that franchise dealers might not understand?
Yeah, just your income streams as an independent. I mean, we have one income stream. It is used cars. I mean, that's it. We live and die by it, obviously.
Yeah.
Where franchise dealers got fixed ops, new cars, whole parts, and all those avenues of one might be off, but they might make it up here and kind of spread that overhead out, where it's just all right on used cars here for us. Yeah. So that's obviously one big thing. Mm-hmm. The other thing is just perception. I mean, I think if you have a franchise nameplate out there on that big bright sign out on the building, you instantly are more credible to the consumer versus just an independent lot.
Sure.
So we constantly fight that. Sourcing inventory, we don't have as many avenues. The franchises do have closed sales they can get into. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the big ones.
Now, location-wise, you're right down the street within a couple blocks almost of kind of a car row that's off the highway. I think there's Infiniti, Toyota, Hyundai. They're all right here.
Yeah.
Do you get some of that leftover traffic? Is that some of the goals? Because, do you kind of carry their stock, but in a way strategically to try to lure those people in, or is there any piggybacking that you do off them?
We do see those kind of customers. I mean, we're primarily internet driven.
Yeah.
We're search for our cars. We're using the velocity principles. We're trying to find low market day supply cars, high demand, and drive that internet traffic to just get them to come to us. And so we do find a lot of the folks that come down here or have visited those stores, but ideally we're not trying, our inventory we try to separate away from that certified pre-owned vehicle at those franchise lots. We just don't want to compete head-to-head with those same year and models, because even myself, if I could buy the exact same car from Lexus right over there, certified pre-owned, and it's the same car, apples for apples, I'm even going to go over there just to buy it from the franchise store and have that certified pre-owned. So that would get us in a pricing game where we have to be significantly less. So we kind of try to separate from those off lease certified pre-owned cars.
Late
That there's a
model
lot
stuff.
of them out there, right? Kind of that commodity car that they're dealing in.
Step away, but you get the 11s and 12s that they might only have one or two
Right.
of two, and you got one or two. They
Right.
can't really certify it, so
Yeah.
more of an even ball game.
So we kind of really watch our inventory mix with that, and then we get people gravitate, and there's a CarMax right by us too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we get a lot of people that are looking at cars there versus here, which we like. We just kind of convey our message, build our value here in what we do, and our pricing and our product, and kind of support it and go head to head with those guys.
You do a good job, I imagine, because there's a lot. I mean, not only CarMax, but Country Hills right there. They're
Right.
independent. That's pretty big. They have a couple locations. So that's a competitive market that you're in here. And so not only, obviously, you got to drive it with price and the internet, but I guess for these vendors out there, the guys like you, I'm assuming your Auto Trader, Cars.com, Car Gurus, things like that. What's a message maybe for these vendors that, the struggle is the independence, that, it's like maybe fair or not fair from the vendor? And, when the Auto Trader rep, Cars.com rep sits down and maybe you're billing, and he's like, if I was this, it would be a little bit different story. Is there any of those type of advice or sympathy stories that you could share with some of those vendors that might, help?
Well, I mean, we're as far as the vendors, we always wish they were charging a little less, and there's more of them out there now than ever. That didn't even exist even 5 years ago, that have kind of wedged their way in there to get our advertising dollars. So, I mean,
I know it's a numbers game. It's a lot. I mean,
right.
the more rooftops I can sign up, the cheaper I get, and then the small guys tend to struggle. And it's like, hey, it's just me here. Can't you get a break? But, I know, again, that's one of those biggest struggles is how much money can you spend to get that exposure when you're competing against a CarMax? It's an independent, but almost gets the benefit of a franchise, the way they market and everything, and then these other franchises.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely at a disadvantage. I mean, I'm sure CarMax has national agreements with Auto Trader, Cars.com, and all those major vendors where they just have it dialed down to a pretty good cost. And independent, we do get a little leg up in the fact that our pricing with some of these vendors is a little different than a franchise. They go per car.
Okay.
Kind of how much your
way.
inventory is, yes.
Yeah.
And there's, like with TrueCar, for instance, their model is on the new car. I know they charge per transaction a set fee, where they don't really have a way of capturing that on used, so that's just kind of a monthly fee for the advertising.
Okay.
And we found them to be a pretty good. They have their certified with USAA program, and that kind of transfers the trust over to us as the dealership, and we've found a lot of value in that. Where most new car stores, I don't think, like TrueCar as much, because they just kind of see them as showing the price and then interjecting them in between and then extracting the fee out of them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, one of the things you mentioned where we're going with this, the TrueCar. One of the things I've heard is they've done a real good job following up the customer, trying to get them into service and everything like that. Now, obviously, without having a service department, that can make it a struggle. But with your independent lot here, if there was one thing that you would say makes you stronger than a franchise or makes you stand out, I know. Oh, you were talking about the warranty. Do you participate in one of those kind of warranty programs or certification programs to maybe make your cars a little bit valuable or compete with those? Because I know there's like the Motor Trends and, like you said, USA. Are there certain things that you do that you would go, man, if any independent dealers listening out there, you should be doing one of these type of programs? Is there something like that you're doing?
Well, we currently participate in a lifetime program, which is actually getting ready to be restructured here in another month, so we're going to have to take a look at that program again. But it's some of the cars out here that qualify come with a free lifetime powertrain warranty, and we tried to build a lot of value in that. There's a cost associated to us, the dealer behind the scenes, in that, so you really got to build the value. We didn't find that we could charge more for our cars as much as we thought. It's still really price driven, and people looking for a specific car they want. What we did find, though, is that we can really hold that asking price once they get here when we build the value into that program.
Defend it.
Right. Instead of kind of getting into a discount situation.
Yeah. What's the ways that you're kind of promoting it? Do you do like on the thumbnail and stuff like that?
Yeah, we just, again, we don't do any TV or radio or advertising. We just haven't. We feel our dollars spent more in SEO and just search type advertising like Auto Trader or Cars.com. So we put them in every thumbnail right across the lead photo of the car that qualifies for it, and then we put some literature in the ad itself, kind of about it, just enough to hopefully pique their interest and get them calling or emailing in and asking further about what that is.
Now, I deal with a lot of franchise dealers, and I have over the years, and I know being an independent, sometimes you wish you had that franchise to be able to help with that, but I also hear all the headaches that the OEMs and the regulations and what they can and can't do, and reviews, and dipping into used like GM. We were talking about GM starting to try to sell their own cars themselves and skip the dealers in a way. So there's got to be some benefits to being that independent lot. Is there anything, and I guess some of the overhead too, maybe is a benefit, but is there something that, again, that maybe stands out that you go, you know what, that you might use in a TO with a customer when they say, well, I can buy it from so-and-so. Is there any edge that you feel like you have in the market?
I think the franchise guy is controlled a little bit more by their OEM, by the manufacturer, especially more. I hear the Nissan guys kind of talking about it right now, how they're driven to this market share number that Nissan wants to hit, and they're kind of after it at all costs. And they're not, the manufacturer's not as concerned about the dealer itself's profitability, from what I hear. Where us as the independent, we kind of control our own destiny. I mean, we can run as lean as we want. If the economy takes a turn and cars aren't selling, there's not as many cars turning over, we can lean back. We can really control our overhead. We don't have that huge rooftop with those property taxes, 60 plus employees, and all those factors that you just really got to drive that number where your net profit at the end of the month can quickly be eroded away. So I do feel like kind of running lean and mean at times, gives us a little bit of an advantage. And then we just kind of, as far as selling to the consumer, I mean, a lot of these franchises, especially here in Kansas City, they're now been bought up by the larger groups. We have Berkshire Hathaway here, Group 1, Hendrick. You really get that corporate feel in those stores, and there's some turnover in there, and sometimes the message that those brands want to convey to their consumers is not actually what gets conveyed at the bottom salesperson level that's interacting with their customer. Where here, we're kind of a tight-knit family. We don't have a lot of turnover. We have that small, we really connect with our customer when they get here. And I feel like that's an advantage, I mean, if you just look at our reviews and the feedback from people, time and time again, that's kind of the message. We weren't that structured, store with a bunch of different managers and then throwing them in the F&I box and pounding on them, and that guy's trying to maximize his pay plan and all that the consumer could care less about, but that message gets conveyed to them in the way they're being treated.
They can sense it.
Right.
I always tell when guys were trying to get their bonus, that one extra unit, and they no matter what they take 5 ups, they can't get it. I think the customer senses it on them, like can smell them, that desperation.
Right.
But the other thing you talk about is trying to meet these OEM numbers, and they got to hit this. They're stepping up on trades to do that, and then when they're burying themselves in trades, it's hard to be competitive as an OEM on that car to the guy that doesn't have to, hit those kind of numbers.
Yeah, I mean, we solely. I mean, we source what we want to source for our inventory, and we're really looking at day supply and interest in the market, and we get to stick to those principles a lot more. Where, I mean, the OEM guys sitting there, they have that number to hit, or it's going to cost them a lot of money at their monthly number. Yeah, I mean, it could be a 6-figure number to them, so they might bury themselves in that trade $3,000 to try to get that deal at the end of the month, and then that's going to cost them sooner or later down the road. I mean, we don't find ourselves in that position a lot, as an independent.
And that helps you be competitive with price and then get
Right.
people in the door.
Yeah.
So we got to wrap up here, but again, if there's one or two maybe ideas or tips, and any dealer out there, if there's one thing you think that can help dealers get to the next level, is there any particular thing that you kind of clicked on as your own that you go, you know what, this really works for me? And if I went somewhere else or if I open another store, this is the first thing I'd implement or anything like that?
Well, I mean, you just got to really have a strategy of what you want your store to run. I mean, if it's going to be subprime, you got to go a whole different way. If you're going to be a prime customer like we are, you really got to set it up that way. And I mean, we use Viato and the velocity principles here, and we don't just use it to appraise cars. We use it to run our entire operation. It's our whole philosophy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a big thing, is really setting out what do you want to be as a store, as an independent, what type of inventory do you want to do, because you can't do it all.
Yeah.
You just can't price it, source it, and do it all and be, competitive. And the other thing is just really use the internet to your advantage. I mean, guys like us are never going to have that $10 million plus building right on the interstate, that whole image.
Yeah.
But when the consumer's on the internet searching for these cars like they are now, spending all this time on the internet versus going from dealer to dealer, they don't know all that.
Yeah,
they don't see that huge capital investment those dealers have. So get your online reputation up, which are the reviews. People can start to sense the experience they're going to have if they come to your store by all that online reputation. It's huge. And we look just the same as any of the other dealers in the city on the internet.
Sure.
A professional web page, good online reputation, and then just comes down to people, price, product.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Dan, thanks for your time and appreciate it. And hopefully we see you guys next week on next week's show. Thanks. Hey, that was a great interview with Dan Oakes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, just some insights of what it takes to really get going from, you can see, he was a guy selling cars all by himself, a few a month, to grow to almost 100 and carrying 150 plus and growing in a very competitive market. So hopefully you got some best practice, some good ideas from him, and either as you being an independent dealer or even a franchise dealer. So again, continue to watch the show. Watch our previous episodes. We have great content there. If you need some more quick tips, I'm going to give you one here at the end of the show, but you also can go to increaseturn.com, get for more information. Or if you'd like a free inventory evaluation, let us do a virtual lot walk and give you a report. Just go to increaseturn.com. There's a form there to fill out to get a free inventory review. And at the bottom of that form is some more some more tips on how to turn your inventory better. Thanks. See you next week. Hey, Jasen Rice again from Lotpop. What I want to go over this week's tip is there's this black hole I've noticed in pricing, and here's what I mean by that. I push a lot of dealerships to flat pricing. I want a car priced at $20 grand and not $19,995. But irregardless, most of this, what I'm going to show you is charts derivative off that flat pricing strategy. So this black hole that I'm talking about, I've seen it a lot in high dollar, high volume vehicles. Let's say Jeep Wranglers, trucks, Sierras, F-150s that are 35, 40 grand. And what happens is, and I'm going to show you a few graphs, but I'm going to give you the theory first. Let's say you have a truck priced at 40 grand and you're at 100% of the market. Let's say then somebody goes and does a search for a truck 30 to 40 grand. And there's 8 pages on autotraderofcars.com and trucks. Well, it's high to low. They search high to low. The default's high to low on these sites. So at 40 grand, you're at the top of that search. They see it. You get a ton of SRPs. You get a ton of exposures. The chart goes crazy. But they don't click on it possibly because it's priced at average market and it's at the top of their budget. Now what happens a few weeks later, you start dropping the price and dropping the price $500, $1,000, another $500, and you're dropping this price. And I've seen, again, 35 to 40 grand, I've seen us get these vehicles down to 37.5 and no one's paying attention to this truck. How do we take a truck and drop 2 grand to 2,500 off of it, and all of a sudden it just disappears and no one even considers it, and we're not getting traction on it? And what happens is, again, 35 to 40 grand, there's 8 pages. They'll go through page 1 and page 2 of those trucks, right? Again, they might not click it at 40 grand. Then they might flip it low to high. and they're going to go through page 1 and page 2. They're not really going to page 3 and 4. They're not going 4 or 5 pages deep on their search. So when I'm at 40 grand and I drop it and drop it, you'll see the searches just start dropping on that vehicle. All of a sudden, you're at 37.5, which is right in the middle, and that's that black hole. You're not at 35 and you're not at 40, and if there's 8 pages of these vehicles, they're not getting to page 4 and 5 to actually see your truck. So here's a couple examples. This even works on like 18 grand vehicles. This chart here, you're going to see we started at 20 grand. The yellow line is the price. The black line is a 5-day average of searches. So at 20 grand, you see that huge spike. And we dropped it to 19.5, we dropped it to 19, we dropped it to 18.5, and now it's at 18, and you start seeing that spike go back up. Okay, there's another example here of a truck. Now, what happened, we started out at 42.5. Remember, that's the middle of 45 and 40. So at 42.5, you can see that black line is very low. We went to 42, 41.5, 41, 40,005. It wasn't until 40 grand where we see this big spike. Now, dropping it back down again, you're going to 38, and as we're dropping and getting more aggressive, that goes back down again. So there's this black hole where if you get these popular price bands, 15 grand, 18 grand, 20 grand, 35, 40 grand, you're going to get the spikes, but if you have to discount it, all of a sudden it becomes this black hole. So it mostly has to do with high volume vehicles. Again, if it's a Bentley or BMW or one that's not that many out there, if they're looking for a specific vehicle and there's only 10, this theory don't work. But when there's a huge volume of this type of vehicle, somebody does a sedan search or a truck search and there's 8, 10 pages, and you go from, and they search 35 to 40 grand. If you're high priced at 40, you're not going to get a whole lot of activity, get a lot of searches, but no one's clicking on it or calling on you. But if you're priced at 40 grand and you're 90% of the market, that's when the thing sells. So it's almost like a stocking strategy. I tell my dealers I would almost avoid that truck, that if I bought it and priced it at market average, I'm at 40 grand, unless there's something special about that truck. If it's a normal truck, you might not get the exposure, and as you drop it down, it's tougher and tougher to sell because you lose exposure. There's some charts I showed you today. If you kind of get that, if you have any other questions or more information on it, give me a call at 844-LOTPOP4 or email me at jrice@lotpop.com. Thanks.